I saw the innate healing ability of the body to express to a high degree. Given ideal circumstances, I've seen bodies heal and recover from pretty dramatic, chronic, or traumatic illnesses. I mean, we have people that drive 4 hours one way to get here. There's a woman, I'm not kidding you, who bought a house in Dover to be closer to our practice.
You've had some pretty significant fertility struggles through the years.
I would say there was a trepidation of, I really, really want to be a mother. We really want to have a family. And what if it never happens? And that's just a scary, sad place to be. And it affects a lot more people now than it used to, unfortunately. We've never lived in a more amazing time in human history where it's been safer, healthier, happier, at least in this country, especially in this little niche in the seacoast. Mm-hmm. And yet we're having more anxiety and depression and mental health issues than ever before. Mm-hmm. It's like, why is that? Well, I think sometimes we need a little bit more difficulty in our life. Who am I to have this Seacoast Stories where I have the #1 podcast in the Seacoast at the same time, like you're like a duck underwater just churning your legs to like hope it doesn't all fall apart.
Hey everyone, really quick before we get started. We're making major moves here at Seacoast Stories in the next few days. First, we are launching the brand new seacoaststories.com at the end of this week. On that website, you will find our newsletter, partnerships information, and perhaps most notably, our limited time summer merch drop. And on Friday, we have the 1-year anniversary of Seacoast Stories Dinner Club in Newmarket, where we're expecting over 100 people. All that's to say, we are working tirelessly behind the scenes here to take this company to the next level. And for us to be able to get there, I just need you to do me one favor, and it is a very simple one. Follow the podcast on Apple or Spotify, or hit subscribe over on YouTube. That way, you'll get new episodes straight to your device every Monday. When you do that, it helps us tell more stories, grow our team, host more events, and bring the Seacoast even closer together. Thank you so much for all your support. Now on to today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of Seacoast Stories, a podcast about the people and businesses of New Hampshire and Maine. I'm Troy Farkas, and I'm here at Arete Chiropractic in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, sitting across from one of the brightest minds on the Seacoast and someone that I'm so excited to talk to today. This has been a long time in the making because I first met Dr. Mychal Beebee, let's see, maybe 18 months or so ago. She was running the anatomy portion of my yoga teacher training at Three Bridges Yoga. And so my classmates and I, we'd spent the weekend learning from her, and I learned a lot about her life through the process. We had a lot of really good conversations, and I could just sense through her energy and the way that she carried herself that she was absolutely someone with a story to tell and someone I needed to talk to on the show. So glad to finally have her here to make it happen. For those who don't know, again, she runs Arete Chiropractic alongside her husband. They've been around for 10 years now, and it's really one of the most unique practices in the country. I mean, people come from all over the United States to visit Dr. Mychal and her staff at Arete. She also sits on a number of prestigious boards in this industry, awards and certifications and recognition out the wazoo, has been published in medical journals 3 times now. Additionally, runs a nonprofit that delivers chiropractic care to veterans. That's not all. I mean, UNH alum, I'm running out of breath. A mother, we'll talk about that later as well. Also an avid fan of horses, which strangely enough is where I want to start today because I love horses. I grew up going to the Saratoga racetrack and have always had an affinity for horses. And so I know you do as well. Dr. Mychal, you grew up with horses on your family farm in Connecticut. You now have a couple of horses on your property in Lee, New Hampshire. And so what is it about, I'm so curious to know, what is it about horses that you've been so drawn to basically your entire life?
Yeah, you know, it's so funny. When I met my husband, his mom and sister have kind of an attraction to horses too. He grew up on a horse farm. And when he met me and I was like, horses are going to be non-negotiable, he was just like, oh,
How late into dating did you say that?
Oh, right off. Like,
that's
it is
amazing.
Yeah. Like, because if you're gonna be honest in a relationship, horses are a lifestyle. And like, you know, when people talk about money that they spend on their hobbies, like nothing. And I mean, even the moms and dads that are like, oh, my kid is in like 5 different travel soccer teams and select lacrosse teams. Like nothing holds a candle to horses. Nothing. Like even skiing, nothing holds a candle to horses with respect to like the amount of time, energy, effort, money that you have to put in. So,
right. I mean, it is caring for a living thing, unlike those other things.
The living thing. And it's just unfortunately, and this is, I think, to the detriment of horses as a culture of people participating with them, and a detriment to getting other people into it. Like, because of the way our world is shifting, where open green spaces are less, and there's, more of a safety consciousness and litigiousness around life. Horses are getting to be very expensive. And so it's a little bit like you have to kind of know people to get into that world in order to do it at this point, But yeah, so he was like, okay, horses are a part of our world. And I was like, yes, it is. And I did take 11 years off, because through graduate school and then after chiropractic school, we lived in Seattle, Washington, and I was there for 5 years, and there's no way you can do horses in Seattle. I tried, I leased a horse, but I would drive an hour and a half one way just to like go ride it. So 3 hours round trip in the car.
Leased a horse. I've never heard of that before.
Oh yeah. It's a really common thing. Really common thing. And so, you have to have the green space. You have to have the ability to do it. And it's a beautiful, beautiful hobby. I love it because you have to be completely present. It's one of the Zen moments in my life. Like I get there sometimes on my yoga mat. I get there sometimes hiking in nature. I get there riding, where you just are so 100% present that you're in the flow and all the chatter in your mind quiets. And horses, I think, provide that for people in a couple different ways. Like there's a reason why horses are used for like therapeutic riding. Because there's a institute called the HeartMath Institute in Palo Alto, California, and they've looked at the coherence and energy fields like emanating from a horse heart. And because their hearts are so large, the electromagnetic field is so big. And, we're getting into the wooey stuff.
No,
but
we love that.
Yeah, it's proven. And it can entrain the people that they're around. And so that's a piece of it. And the other piece is that I think humans innately connect with animals. And with the horse in particular, it's so gentle. It's such a mirror for your energy because it's a prey animal. And so if you're elevated and excited and in that fight or flight, it's going to pick that up and it's going to be, oh, there's a saber-toothed tiger chasing us. We should run away. And where are we going to run to? Whereas if you're like in a calm, centered, rest and digest state, they're like, great, let's hang out and chew grass, And so there's that reflection of your energy. And so you kind of have to become a master of your energy around them. And if you're not, the consequences are higher. One of my horses is 1,400 pounds. Like if they get scared and run, like there's no way you're going to stop her. So
yeah. Well, I've never been on a horse before, but it's on my bucket list to make that happen this year.
You just have to text me.
If you know a guy.
I know many guys, and I have a horse. I'd put you on the steady Eddie Keiko horse,
oh my gosh,
and she would
wait.
love it. We'd walk around a field. It'd be fun.
I'll be sure to be zen going into that so they don't pick up on my my energy and how scared I'll be. You alluded to that you were in San Francisco and you were in Seattle.
Yeah.
And you had told me in a previous conversation that you and your boyfriend from a past life had driven across the country to San Francisco. You took a gap year after graduating at UNH. You were on a medical track there, and you show up in San Francisco to start working in a bunch of different medical offices, right?
So, origin story of that is I was at UNH and I went to be pre-vet because again, the horses thing, the animal thing, it's a big part of my life. I went and interned with some veterinarians and found that I didn't want to make what I did for my hobby my work. And so I did some rounds with a veterinarian that had been on call for way too long running a private practice. And he was a little bit old and crusty. And he was kind of saying like, at the end of the day, I deal with all these sick animals and their owners who don't really necessarily know how to handle it. And the people are difficult. And then I go home and I don't want to see my own animals. And I think if I did, an experience with different veterinarians, my choice might have been different. But that was a choice that I made at the time. And I kind of shifted gears to do like a pre-med track. But I then did rounds at Portsmouth Hospital with some MDs, and they are really amazing people that care deeply about patients, but were kind of bogged down by the system that they were working in. And, all the conversation was about medication management and what the insurance companies allowed and what they didn't allow, and how their time constraints limited what they could do, and how patients were non-compliant. And it was not really a positive environment. And in retrospect, now knowing what I know, I'm glad I made the choice that I made. Like, I think that the medical field has some amazing opportunities, but it is really kind of hemmed in by some insurance restrictions and some of the systems that they're stuck in. And so then I met a chiropractor at a fraternity party. My then boyfriend was the president of Sigma Beta at UNH. And
no big deal.
Humble brag there. But he was the president of the Alumni Association, a guy named Matt Swiss. He was actually the past president of the New Hampshire Chiropractic Society. And he loved his job. And I had only known about chiropractic because my mom went to a chiropractor for some back problems, but that was the extent of my knowledge. Like, I knew that she had gone. And so met Matt and was like, this sounds really interesting. Took a year off after graduating college. Granted, I graduated college at 21. So I think good to give a year to like get a little maturity under my belt. And worked in a chiropractic office while I was also kind of waiting tables and riding. Decided I liked the day-to-day thing, and then picked up my boyfriend at the time. We bought an RV. We drove around the country for about 3 months in the RV, national parks, hiking, camping, backpacking. It was an awesome experience, awesome trip. Sold the RV in San Francisco for more than we bought it for, which is a good...
Nice.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah. It was, even back then.
Entrepreneurship started early.
Entrepreneurship started way back. Yeah. My family had a corn stand, and I was picking corn and hawking corn for $2.75 for a baker's dozen from the time I was like 9 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Savage.
Yeah. My parents gave me a good solid work ethic instead of generational wealth.
Yeah. Who needs that?
Right. And so we were in San Francisco. That's where chiropractic school was. I was there for 5 years, then went to Seattle, was there for 5 years doing like a internship residency. So it's called an associateship, but I worked directly with my mentor doc for about a year in his practice. And then he wanted to open up a satellite practice. So I opened up in Capitol Hill on 19th and East Mercer, which is a district in Seattle that's really just a great little spot.
Yeah.
And had a practice there for 4 years. And
okay, so let me stop you.
Yeah.
So you had met Matt back at UNH, and he had introduced you to this field. Why was chiropractics? Is that the field?
Yeah.
Why was chiropractic more appealing to you than all the other branches of medicine?
That's a great question. I saw the innate healing ability of the body to express to a high degree. And our bodies are self-healing mechanisms. And yes, there's limitations of matter where if like you have, severe arthritis, we're not going to be able to take that arthritis away. But given ideal circumstances, I've seen bodies heal and recover from pretty dramatic, chronic, or traumatic illnesses. And I was able to witness that. And it was not just one segment of a population. It was everybody from infants to elderly, from, capable athletes to people who were severely injured and debilitated. And I really liked that. I was attracted to it. I was attracted that, you could do that in a drug-free environment. I think there's definitely a time and a place for medical intervention and procedures and pharmacy, like pharmaceuticals, but it's much too widely used. And I was just super attracted to the ability to help a body heal naturally and express health.
What are some of the miracles that you've witnessed over the years?
Yeah. I've had children who were unable to walk, like developmentally delayed, Doctors were saying, okay, you have to go to OT, you have to go to PT. And, after one adjustment, this kid gets up and toddles across the floor, at 2 years old. I've had children who were bedwetters, unable to go to over friends' houses and have sleepovers at, 11, 12 years old because they were afraid of having a wet night, and, their spine gets adjusted and all of a sudden their bladder is getting signals to the brain correctly. And then the kid can go have a sleepover at a friend's party.
You would think that's not related at all.
100% not related. But it's about the central nervous system.
Right.
And so those are just some pediatric miracles. I actually right now specialize in the head and neck. So I have extra certification and board qualifications around what's called the craniocervical junction. And that is where I deal a lot with headaches, neck pain, and head and neck injury. So concussion, whiplash injury. And the craniocervical junction is just a beautiful area of the body. So it's on a philosophical level, it's where man, the conscious thought manifests into man, the physical action, because your brain produces these neurochemical experiences, but they're just thought in your head until they travel through your central nervous system and then create action in reality through your body.
Right. At lightning speed too.
Lightning speed.
Crazy.
Yeah. Lightning speeds. And so, the upper neck is really the area that I think is one of the most vital areas for the human body. And I'm attracted to working in that area because there's so much that you can do for a body on a lot of different levels. Like if you've got knee injuries, hip injuries, you can do physical therapy, you can do yoga, you can do manual massage therapy. But if there's a specific misalignment, meaning the joints are not moving correctly, affecting the nerves in the upper neck, one of the only things I've seen truly correct that is an upper cervical chiropractic adjustment. And when that brain stem is functioning better, it helps the body in three major ways. So it helps it from a proprioceptive standpoint, like the body's awareness of where it is in space, which is like our vestibular system, our body's balance system. It helps from a fluid flow. So our cerebral spinal fluid, which is like the nutrient fluid that brings nutrients to the brain, takes the waste products away. That fluid flow in and around the brain is critical for correct brain health. And the gatekeeper to that is the base of the neck, or the upper neck. And then it also helps our autonomic system. So the vagus nerve and a lot of the nerve centers that control the body going from fight or flight to rest and digest are right at the brainstem and the upper neck. And so those three areas are just critical for a correctly functioning body and something I work with every day.
I feel like I'm back at anatomy class.
We can go.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, we can go all sorts of ways.
I know, all sorts of certifications. All right. So what year that you really decided to go all in on chiropractics?
All in was 2005, and I started chiropractic school in 2006.
Okay. So, I'm 30, and I feel like throughout the course of my life, the perception of chiropractics has changed a lot. Whereas I think in my younger years, I didn't even really hear that much about it. I didn't really know anyone that was going to a chiropractor. No, I know so many people who go see a chiropractor just for your general maintenance outside of dealing with acute injuries. So how have you seen the perception of chiropractics change? Because I know that back in the day, it was like the ugly stepchild of the medical industry.
Absolutely. Chiropractic, I think, still has a little bit of a negative brand equity, where chiropractors can be a little weird. It has become much more mainstream because I think there is a little bit of the veil kind of lifting around medicine. In the 70s and earlier, if a medical doctor said, jump, you didn't question it and you said, how high, right? And then we get into the advent of the internet and people are starting to do a little bit more of the research and the patient is becoming so much more educated. And now people are looking for ways to help their body heal naturally. I think that in the 90s and early 2000s, it was still very much like, medication is king. And now the last maybe 15, 20 years, I've noticed a huge shift for people saying, okay, medicine is there for a purpose. Like if you're a diabetic, you absolutely need insulin and it's life-saving, and that's a miracle. And people who are having these chronic illnesses that they're just sick of kind of trying to cover up the symptom, and they want to get to the root cause as to why their body's dysfunctioning. And with, the information age that we have, I think truth will prevail. And there is a truth to, if the spine is moving correctly and the central nervous system can fire better to control the function of the body's going to function better. And that's a truth. And so while chiropractic is not a panacea for everything, like, we can't cure lots of things, and the goal is not to cure anything. It's really just to remove the interference from the body. So it's a piece of the pie to keep a body healthy. Kind of like going to the dentist. And going to the dentist in the 1800s, like dentists were quacks and weird, right? And now everybody goes to dentists so that their teeth don't, have cavities and rot and fall out of their face.
Yeah.
Right? I think in the future, people will really understand that your spine, you only get one of those. And just like teeth can decay, your spine can degenerate. And the longer you prevent that, the better function you'll have long-term for your life.
So you said something that really caught my attention. Our exposure to information now and how much more access to it that we have about our bodies in the medical field, is that really at the root of questioning doctors and trying to find alternative paths?
I don't know if the exposure to the information is the root of it, or the fact that medication has now been around for a while, and we're no longer necessarily seeing like the penicillin or the insulin medication, which are truly the miracle medications. But now there's just these drugs where it's like, oh, you're having some anxiety, try these 15 different anxiety meds. And you have anxiety, you try the 15 different meds, you're having side effects from the 15 different meds, and the anxiety is still always there. And so people are understanding from an experiential level that this isn't working. And then they're seeing, oh, well, if I get this anxiety med, and then I'm going to get this antidepressant med, and then I'm going to get this med for my restless legs, and all of a sudden they have 15 different medications that they're on. You can only play that game so far. The United States and New Zealand are the only countries in the world that allow direct-to-consumer advertising for medication, and we are the most heavily medicated populations in the world, and we're certainly not the healthiest. So I think people are starting to just realize that that might not be the only answer, and they're searching for other answers.
Quick aside, what are your thoughts on the GLP-1 craze that's overtaken?
Yeah, that God, it's so amazing because it works so well. But I get really concerned how quickly it works for people and the side effects that are happening, because the long-term studies are not really that long-term.
Right.
So what happens when you're taking this for 20 years? What systems start to break down? And from just an immediacy of what I see with people that are on the GLPs is that it's taking away a lot of our muscle mass and not just the adipose or fat tissue. So I get concerned about that because our muscle should be considered another organ in the body. One of the biggest indications of longevity and health is actually muscle mass as we're aging. And so I get, again, concerned if you're taking a drug that is eating away your muscle mass as well as your adipose tissue just to look thinner because you think that that's going to be healthier, quote unquote. Yeah, I think it's putting the cart before the horse a bit.
Yeah, I'm definitely concerned about it too. I mean, original intention diabetes drug, right?
Yeah, original intention is good. But unfortunately, the path of least resistance makes men and rivers crooked.
I've never heard that one before.
It's from the founder of chiropractic, a guy named BJ Palmer.
Quack job.
Yeah, right? He was a weirdo.
Yeah. And I want to talk more about the core offerings here a little bit later, but you brought up your family and the subject of the personal life. So when I, my first introduction to you, I had talked to our mutual friend, Stephanie, at Three Bridges, and she said, Mychal, she's a wild one, or she was a wild one back in the day. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? She said, Mychal was a party girl back in her, her younger years, but a very high achieving one at that. What were your 20s like, Dr. Mychal? What were you getting up to?
Oh, goodness. There we go. Thank you, Stephanie. Yeah, I think every life has so many different facets, right? And so I come by excitement and a love for life, really honestly. I have a lot of energy. I'm an extrovert. And so there was a piece of me that was the high achiever. I was in the Honor Society and on student council and varsity athlete. And then there was a piece of me that was going out and getting drunk on the weekends, right? And some of that was a bit of a trauma response. So my father passed away when I was a freshman in high school. He was 39 and had a stroke and left behind my mother and my sister and myself and our 2 horses and a dog. And my mom was in college to be an engineer and he was the income earner. And it was a difficult time. And so, yes.
Just suddenly, unexpectedly.
Completely unexpectedly. Wow. Yeah. I was a freshman in high school and I kind of developed like two things. There was like the piece of me that was like, I'm completely independent. I can take care of myself. I'm an adult, so I'm going to do all these adult things. And then there was a piece of me that was like, I have to hold up the shield of perfection because it could fall apart at any moment because it was tenuous for our family for a while. And tenuous just being that like, we had to make sure that everything went correctly because if there was, if I had crashed the car, like we couldn't have afforded to get a new car, it was that tight. And so I think some of the party girl excitement stuff was just being young and having fun. And some of it was a little bit of a trauma response where it was like, well, I'm going to like disassociate and just do this crazy stuff. And so, yeah, there was a lot of drinking and there was a lot of partying and I did that well through high school and college and a little bit into graduate school. But, it gave me a lot of life experience too. And it was not something I regret, but something that I think you learn from and you evolve from. So like now having a toddler, like 1 or 2 drinks is good because taking care of a toddler on a hangover, I've done it twice. It's a new level of hell. But like there was a time where I'd be like, oh yeah, like, my friend and I can drink an entire bottle of vodka. That's normal.
Yeah. So was this to a point where it was out of control or it got you in any trouble?
I always flirted with that line and always managed to just be on the right side of it. I have a family history where there is some alcoholism in the family, not my direct family, but my grandfather's brother and his entire side of the family had substance abuse issues. And I think that there is a sensitivity to alcohol that's a genetic component. And then there is like lifestyle and choice factors. And I definitely flirted with that line. But I think having a really good family that kind of supported me in that I know if I really fell on my face, they'd always be there for me. But at the same time, like I was kind of, the expectation was that I would do well because I was given the tools. And that kind of kept me from going off the deep end.
Right. And I imagine just the lifetime of discipline that you had built up and your own just love for health and wellness.
Yeah. I mean, that's always been a big push in my life. I've always been an athlete. I've ridden horses competitively. I still do. I'm blessed with a good body, a body that's always been able to do what I wanted to do. I mean, I summited Mount Rainier. My husband and I did some mountaineering.
Oof, wow.
Yeah. So we summited Mount Rainier. We summited Mount Hood. And I was able to do Rainier with a pretty minimal of training and a lot of arrogance, right? But you just did it. But when you get to kind of your mid 30s, maybe mid to late 30s, you really have to start to earn it a little bit more. And I work with bodies every day and I see that shift, that dichotomy between people who start to have aches and pains or problems and then say, okay, well, I've got to change my lifestyle to help support my body so that I can keep doing these things that I love. Or the people that say, oh, well, I'm just going to keep doing this lifestyle. And then, they reach for the quick fixes And then they eventually don't change their lifestyle and the body starts to break down.
All right. So you open up your own practice in Seattle. You meet your now husband in Seattle as well, right?
Met my husband in chiropractic school.
In chiropractic school.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I met my husband in chiropractic school. The first time I met him, we were at a party and I knew of him. But the first time I noticed him, I'll say, is we were at a party and it was called the White Trash Regatta. So dress up like white trash, float down the Sacramento River, and then go to the after party. So he was dressed up as Jeff Gordon, and he cut off a pair of denim shorts, really quite too short. It's like you could see the pockets and other things, and wore like steel-toed construction boots, and then shaved his head with number 47 in it. And like was really committed to this.
That seems a step too far.
Right? Swimming in the Sacramento River in steel-toed boots. And I was just like, that is interesting. And I thought it would be this just kind of fling thing. And he ended up just being an amazing guy. And so, yeah, we met in chiropractic school, went up to Seattle. And then we were looking around and we were like, do we want to live in Seattle? Where do we want to put down roots? Like, I loved being in Seattle. It's a world-class city, amazing food, like the hiking, the outdoor scene. It's incredible. But, you know, like many people who are looking to start a life, there's the cost of living. And when we thought about like, how do we want to live? Both of us had always grown up a little bit more rural and ultimately wanted some space and some land. And you couldn't do that in Seattle. And so we picked up, moved across the country, and opened our office here in Portsmouth in 2016. And so it's been 10 years.
So I'm curious to know how you ended up back on the Seacoast. You had gone to UNH, you had worked briefly at Portsmouth Regional Hospital, and then, as we just discussed, you spent about a decade on the West Coast. Why did you want to come back to the Seacoast to live and work here?
Yeah, so I went to UNH and I fell in love with the Seacoast. And so I've really been fortunate in my 20s through chiropractic. I traveled a lot. You know, I've been to South America many times, Central America many times. I've been to Africa. I lived in Europe for 6 months, Australia, and I always knew the Seacoast was special. And when we were looking at where do we want to settle, my husband likes to surf. He wanted a place that he could surf. We wanted a place that we could afford a little bit of land. We like to ski. And this is just, it's an amazing, I'm telling, you know, preaching to the choir, but the Seacoast, the Seacoast is just a gem. And I think you have really brought something special to highlight it and highlight the people of it, because I have met some incredible people here, you know, and it's, I think people that have a deep love and respect for nature, as well as community, as well as health and wellness. And, you know, that hits all the marks for me.
Living here on the Seacoast, it can sometimes feel like everyone else has their career completely dialed in. You're sitting at the bar at Cure or grabbing coffee at Cup of Joe, and the person next to you is talking about their promotion, their investment portfolio, or their dream job, while you're there thinking, wait, shouldn't I have a plan by now? If that sounds familiar, I want to tell you about JOBTALK LLC, a career consulting firm run by podcast alum Crystal Hicks. A good friend of mine had one conversation with Crystal last year. She took one piece of advice from that call, tweaked her job search strategy, and before long, she landed a senior marketing role at a major fashion company, ending a months-long job search and accepting an offer that paid far more than she thought she would get. I wasn't surprised, because Crystal has been helping people navigate their careers now for 18 years. Every year, she works with hundreds of clients on everything from resumes and interview prep to salary negotiations, career changes, and just figuring out what the next step should even be. So whether you're stuck in a job that isn't exciting you anymore, thinking about making a big change, or you just want some expert guidance, you can visit JOBTALKLLC.com to book a free intro call. But if you'd rather learn at your own pace, JOBTALK also has online courses covering resume writing, cover letters, LinkedIn optimization, and more. As a Seacoast Stories listener, you can get 50% off any JOBTALK Academy course by using the code Seacoast Stories 50 at checkout. Again, that's Seacoast Stories 50 for 50% off any JOBTALK Academy course. Excludes live sessions, offer valid only on JOBTALK Academy courses. So you started your practice in 2016. Was that always the goal, really, just to have your own practice here? That was part of the appeal?
I didn't know immediately graduating chiropractic school if I was going to own my own practice or become a part of a larger group. The group in Seattle that I worked with at the time had 3 offices in Washington and 2 in Michigan. And it was a larger group under a man named Mychal and ours. And he was kind of sharing with me he wanted to expand that and offer more chiropractic training and teaching. I've always kind of been attracted to teaching. Even meeting you at yoga teacher training and teaching the anatomy section, I love to share information with people. And so I do a lot of chiropractic coaching. And so I didn't know if I was going to be a part of a larger group, but ended up being that we opened this practice, and I'm just really happy here. We have had multiple associates. And so we bring people in, train them on this upper neck technique that we do. We've had 2 associates branch off and start their own practice in Rhode Island. A couple of our associates are still with us. And so that's an opportunity to teach. I get a chance to share on some different chiropractic forums, and I'm on some boards. And so, I'm just really excited to be where I'm at in life right now. I think it's all worked out for a reason. It hasn't always been easy. Like, much of life provides roadblocks, but those roadblocks have always taught me something. And even when it's really hard, I've always had a confidence to be like, I can figure this out, because there's been some challenging things that have happened between, my father dying or having to figure out how to move across the country, opening up a solo practice. So in Seattle, my mentor essentially provided the capital and some of the training, but I opened the business myself. I had to build the patient base out, train the staff. And so all of those things, even though they were difficult, it's like at every juncture of life, I've always figured it out and I've always made it work. And the hard stuff is there for a reason to teach you.
Yes, human beings are highly resilient and adaptable. And I know one of these hardships that you've been dealing with for a long time, to take it personal again, is you've had some pretty significant fertility struggles through the years. When did these first start popping up, and what exactly did that look like?
Oh, yeah. So, I would say my first baby was the practice in Seattle, because, when building a business, building Seacoast Stories, you take something that doesn't exist, it's an idea and a concept, and then you work your ass off, and it's going to be a lot harder. It's going to take longer than you think it should.
And the baby never stops crying.
Always needs to be fed. And then you birth it into reality. And now there's this thing that people admire you for and, give you accolades and awards for. And these people ask you, how did you do it? And how did you do it? And basically it boils down to it's a lot of fucking work. So, that was my first baby. And then we opened this practice here in Seattle, or in the Seacoast in Portsmouth. And that was the second baby. And it's a little bit of intertwined when we're talking about a family and the business, because I'm a small business owner and I'm a woman. And not only am I a small business owner, but I am a physical practitioner. So chiropractic is a very physical art. I'm on my feet all day. I'm bending over an adjusting table. I'm working with patients. And so having a big belly and being a mama, it's a consideration. And then there's the financial piece of it. This is our life. I'm making a living. If I have to step out, our income drops by half, and it's not like I work for a big corporation where I have paid maternity leave. Right. And so all of these things needed to line up. And so we got married in 2015, and 2019 comes along and we're like, okay, the business is stable. We're in a great spot. We're going to have a baby. And where I mentioned before, I have a good body. I've always been able to just do it. I thought, we'd pull the goalie and it'd be like, I'd be pregnant in a month. And
pull the goalie.
Right?
I've never heard that. I love
really?
that.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
so good.
Around married couples is the thing we say.
Okay.
Right? You pull the goalie, nets open, free shot, right? And lo and behold, our daughter was born in 2023. So it took us a lot of effort and energy to have a family. And it was 5 years, 5 rounds of IVF. And that was, we only reached for the IVF after we did acupuncture once a week for a year. I did 5 different elimination diets. I was tested 7 ways from Sunday. So was he. And, the diagnosis to date is still unexplained infertility.
So you guys had pulling the goalie in 2019. So it wasn't as easy as you thought.
No, at first it's exciting. You're trying for a family. It's romantic. It's exciting. And then infertility, the technical diagnosis is if after 12 months, 1 year of having unprotected sex, you don't conceive and carry and have a baby, then that's infertility. And so after about the first year, we were like, okay, well, now let's, go for a deep dive into, just testing our hormones, doing all of our due diligence, doing an endoscopy, making sure that the uterus is good, there's no fibroids, making sure that the fallopian tubes, so something called a histosalpingogram, they flush your fallopian tubes. He had a semen analysis, making sure that everything was working. And so we had all that done. And then we were like, okay, well, it's all working. Our hormones look good. Our blood work looks good. Now let's make sure our body's optimized. So we did elimination diets and tested for food allergies and inflammation and all that kind of stuff. And so you do all of that and it's still not working. And by this time you've gotten really good at quick, bad sex. Because it's
used to that.
Yeah. Right. It's oh, I'm ovulating and we have 10 minutes before we have to go meet our friends and we have to have sex now. So, and that's it's a physical toll and a financial burden, an emotional toll. And
how discouraging was this?
I would say there was a trepidation of, I really, really want to be a mother. We really want to have a family. And what if it never happens? And that's just a scary, sad place to be. And it affects a lot more people now than it used to, unfortunately. And I think there's a couple factors. I think people are choosing to have families later. And choosing may not be the only reason. It's also kind of being forced to have families later, just from a financial standpoint. Women need to also kind of establish a career if they want to have a career before they can have a family so that they have something to go back to if they choose that path. And then also just, I think our nutrition, our toxicity load right now is higher than it's ever been for our bodies.
Environmental factors.
Yes, environmental factors for both male and female disrupting the endocrine system. And so there's a lot more infertility, which is really, really disconcerting. And I never thought that we would be one of those people because here we are these health and wellness people that know a lot about the human body, practice what we preach, and yet we're having the challenges too.
Mm-hmm. So, and there was never a clear explanation for it.
There still isn't. So luckily, 5th round of IVF, we have our daughter and she's now 3. But in 2022, we tried another cycle of IVF and I conceived and I carried, but the baby had a neural cord defect and actually died in utero at around 6 months. And so this February, I had to deliver a stillborn baby. Which was another just awful experience. And so, our goal was always to have 2 and we'll see if we do or not. But, I think infertility complications around birth is something that is not always talked about it's much more talked about now. And it depends on the circles you go into. The information is out there, but on a general level, I think it affects a lot more people than you would expect.
Why? So you had 4 failed rounds of IVF?
4 failed. Yeah. So
why did you keep going back to it?
Stubbornness and a belief that persistence is key to any achievement. So the 5th round that actually got us Avery, our daughter, that was the last round for me. That was when I was because, people say IVF, but the amount of planning, paperwork, management to
administering all the shots.
Administering the shots. It's physically uncomfortable. It's emotionally draining. It's a lot of real estate mentally.
Very expensive.
Very expensive. Yeah. So all of that. And that last round, I was coming to peace with okay, well, maybe we'll be a couple that doesn't have a child naturally. Maybe we look at adoption. Maybe we look at, something else, or maybe it's just us. And I was kind of coming to peace with that. And that was going to be my last round. And so then we got Avery, and it's an absolute joy. I never thought I'd be one of those like gaga moms that thinks motherhood is the paramount of life. And I do. And I am grateful for the amount of life experience that I have, like things like being able to go to college, going to graduate school, summiting Mount Rainier, being on 5 of the 7 continents, traveling the world. Like, I feel grateful for all those experiences, and nothing has held a candle to being a mom.
Why?
Because there's something sacred in watching a human life take shape and being able to influence that to some degree. There's who this little person is and who she's going to be. But as parents, you influence that, and you witness that, and you shepherd it, and you keep it safe, and it's magic. Yeah.
After all the failed IVF rounds and all of the anguish that caused, when you did deliver successfully, what do you remember feeling?
Oh, so when Avery came out, we didn't know if she was a girl or a boy, by the way. She came out, and she comes out butt first. So her genitals were there, and she's like halfway out of me. And my husband, who's more emotional than I am, starts to cry, and he's like, "We have a girl." And I just looked at him, and I go, "Stop crying." Because the work wasn't done yet. She wasn't all the way out. So that's like a family joke. And so then she comes out, and because she had been in the birth canal for a little bit longer, she was actually kind of unresponsive. She was lack of oxygen, blue. So they had to do some stimulation. They had to rub her. And so first was a sense of relief. She's out. Let's make sure she's healthy. She's healthy. Okay. Now we can bond and connect. So I think I'm a bit of a pragmatist, like more like make sure that it's going to be okay. And then you can have the feelings. Right. But that's, German, Lutheran.
Yeah. Okay. So you didn't cry. Got it.
No cry. No, I didn't cry.
Your husband took care of it.
Yeah. The husband did the crying. Yeah. And it's just like, then you bond with this little infant, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
You said earlier that you had to deliver a stillborn baby earlier this year, just a couple months ago. Did you know ahead of time that would be the case?
Yeah. So we went in for our 20-week anatomy scan. But we had that at 22 weeks because just scheduling wise, it was like, it got pushed out a couple weeks. And at that point in utero, moms can feel babies moving and fluttering and kicking. We had a midwife, and we had, our monthly checkups, and they put the Doppler ultrasound on, and we'd heard, heartbeat, and everything seemed to be going well. But we went in for the anatomy scan, and the anatomy tech got real quiet. And after searching many different ways, was unable to find a heartbeat. And so when there's no fetal heartbeat, it means intrauterine death. And so that news was delivered to us at the anatomy scan. And that was a Thursday night. It's really important not to allow a dead fetus to remain in utero. And so called the midwife, and she connected us with the hospital. And so I was scheduled for an induction the next day on a Friday. And then, you're with a baby that far along, you're induced and you deliver. And then there's the stillborn baby. You kind of decide what to do with the remains, and then you move on.
What is that? What is that like, delivering a stillborn baby?
Tragic in every way. All the hopes, dreams, everything that you imagine as a life for that child and, the life that we would hope to bring into our family, it comes to a halt. And then you have to figure out how to regroup. But more people do it than you think.
What did you decide to do with the remains, if you don't mind me asking?
Not at all. So you can do a burial, you can do a hospital disposition. We chose for a hospital disposition. So, yeah. And that the hospital essentially takes care of it. And then they give you a box with footprints and some cards and handprints and
wow.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to regroup?
It's a great question. I'll let you know. I think, it's again with the kind of pragmatic side of my personality and the fact that I've always just kind of kept going and looked for the next thing. It's like, first I handle the logistics. Like, am I physically okay? And it wasn't a difficult delivery because at that point the baby is very small, but I retained the placenta. And so I hemorrhaged and then, I had a tremendous amount of blood loss. My blood pressure tanked and they wanted to do a blood transfusion, which I declined and did an iron bolus instead. But so I had to, recover physically. And so it's like, first, am I okay? Recover physically. Then it's like, is Avery, our daughter and our family unit okay? And then how do I come back to practice? And you practice because it's, it's a physical act of giving birth and it's a physical job that I have to be able to really provide the correct adjustments to my patients is a physical art. And, I don't feel comfortable like having people coming to me for care unless I can deliver the goods. And so making sure that was on track and that the business was up and running because I manage the staff and the office. And so making sure all of those pieces were in place probably distracted me enough to give me enough time and distance to then just allow for some healing to come in. And ultimately we kind of are going to decide whether or not we'll try again and we'll see, TBD, we'll see what happens in the future. But it's an effort mentally to just keep going and doing the next right thing. Having my father pass when I was younger, I think has given me a lot of resiliency around that type of trauma so that I know how to just keep going. And
I remember earlier this year seeing a post from Arete saying that you would be stepping away for while you were pregnant. So you had made the decision after a certain amount of period of being pregnant successfully had passed that, all right, now we can start telling people, we can start alerting patients that I won't be caring for you for the next couple months. And then shortly after you lost a baby, right?
Literally the next week. It was hell because, I'm a fairly private person with respect to my practice, like sharing, because ultimately when a patient comes in, it's about them. And I want to be able to care for them. I mean, we have people that drive 4 hours one way to get here. Like I've had patients flying in from different areas of the country to come in for the care here. And so my job is to serve that person in the best capacity I possibly can. And it's about them. And so I'm fairly private in terms of what we share with our patients. And it comes to a point when you're pregnant that you really can't hide the bump. Like there are some patients eyeing me sideways. Some of the people that I've taken care of for this last, I have patients that I've worked with for 8-9 years now, and they look at you and they know. And so we kind of decided, okay, I've had, 3 miscarriages, so we didn't announce until we were like, okay, we are past the point of no return. It's looking good, smooth sailing. So then we put it up on the social media. And, with Seacoast Stories, it's like when you announce something, you're kind of exposed, you're vulnerable. And that very next week is when we ended up getting induced and delivering, and then having to kind of put out the information to our patient base and what's more is not everybody pays attention to social media and your Facebook post or your Instagram post or your email that you send out. And so there were patients that were still coming in and, I'd have to share again and again. And there's the piece of me that is able to compartmentalize that too, because again, I'm there for the patient.
Right.
And so you kind of develop a script of this is what I'm going to say. And then you move on and focus on the person and how we need to take care of them.
How hard was it to keep repeating that script though?
It was, at the risk of sounding callous, it was okay, because that's the truth. That's what happened. It's hard. It sucked. It was awful. A couple times I got choked up, but that's human. And then you move on and do the next thing.
So you think he'll try again?
I think so. It's just, yeah, probably, because we said we wanted to. We still have viable embryos. But I mean, like, I'm going to be 43 in November. And at 44, like, insurance is just like, no, fuck off. We're not paying for you to have babies anymore. So we got to decide what to do.
Well, I know so the woman who runs the yoga teacher training, Johanna, I think she had her first child at 48 or something.
47, yes, she did.
Which is crazy. So I'm still holding out hope. We're manifesting.
Thank you.
The second one coming.
Yeah.
You want a boy or a girl?
Well, so we don't actually get a choice because we already have these like frozen embryos, and we weren't going to know the sex, but our rather arrogant IVF doctor was like, so you have 3 male embryos left. And we're like, okay, so they're all boys. So we know this because we did all the genetic testing on the embryos and everything.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a brave new world.
Yeah. Clearly I know nothing. Okay. Well, I look forward to seeing how it all goes from here.
And I'm at peace. Like, both my husband and I think, are at peace with it at this point. Because if it's a family of 3, it's a family of 3, and we have the blessing of having the experience of a child. And if we are able to have another one, then that's a blessing too. And whatever happens is going to be okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are there a lot of other cases like this with other women where we just don't know the root of the infertility, or are you a special case?
I don't know the stats on that. All I know is that for us, we are still completely unexplained infertility, which is really weird, right? Because like on paper, I am a very, very healthy person. Right. And that's another thing that kind of just pissed me off. Like, a lot of the doctors would look at me and be like, God, you have the hormones of like a 35-year-old. I'm like, great, still barren.
Yeah, I'm sure that's so hard to grapple with, especially when you're identity for so long.
Yes.
Doer, I can do anything despite the circumstances.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure that's
like, I can make it happen. You don't think it can happen? Watch me. And yet not with this. And so it's been super humbling. And I'm sure it's made me a more empathetic provider. It's made me more of an empathetic human. It's made me a deeper individual. Like, no struggle exists in our life without purpose. And so there's definitely been a purpose and a reason behind all of it. But yeah, it sucks when you're going through it.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for sharing that part of the story. I know it's not easy. And on behalf of all the Seacoast people listening, we send our best to you and your family. No easy transition out of that. Mm-hmm. Fast forwarding to Arete and what you guys are doing here and how you show up for your patients. What are the main reasons that people come to you guys? When do they seek you out?
Yeah. So at Arete, we are specialists in the upper neck. And people come to us primarily for headaches, neck pain, and head and neck injury. So we see a lot of concussion, whiplash. We see a lot of dysautonomia, a lot of vestibular issues. What we do as chiropractors, and specifically chiropractors that work on the upper neck, it's not like we wave a magic wand and it's all better, but it can help manage these chronic conditions or help a person get back to life. Like, I had a young woman who was in a car accident with severe concussion and whiplash. She couldn't even walk her dog down one city block without feeling like her head was going to fall off of her neck. She called it a bobblehead feeling. And she had like tremendous headaches, blurred vision, dizziness, pressure at her skull base, couldn't lay down to sleep at night. You know, she put her head on a pillow and the back of her head would just start throbbing. And, you know, this was 2 years ago and now she has her life back. And so in the office at Arete here, we just kind of take care of the neck.
And people come from all over to come visit you guys specifically.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's humbling. And it's also a little bit nerve-wracking. You know, there's a woman, I'm not kidding you, who bought a house. She bought a house in Dover to be closer to our practice. You know, like, because when you have an upper neck problem and your body doesn't function like it should, and you're having severe symptoms, and then you find a technique that works. And it's not some people, like the woman I talked about who was in the car accident. She's a young woman. She's repaired her, you know, her spine nicely, and she's out living her life doing her thing. And then there are some people who have permanent damage and they need to be adjusted, you know, once a month or every couple weeks. And so, yeah, there's a woman who actually bought a house closer to the practice.
And this upper cervical specialty that you guys have here, is that not the norm? Like, are there not that many other people doing what you guys specifically do here?
Correct. Yeah. Okay. It's a niche within chiropractic. You know, when you classically think of chiropractic, you think of the manual adjusting, you know, lay down, feel your spine, twist or pop the spine. You feel a sense of relief, a release in your body, and you walk out. And that works really well for a lot of people. It's general chiropractic. We do upper cervical care. Just, I think both my husband and I are pretty analytical. We like to have that 3D imaging of the neck. We like to know exactly what's going on with the person's anatomy. So chiropractic school, there's, you know, your undergrad degree, there's chiropractic school, which is 4 years. And then we do a 3-year, we both have a board certification in the upper neck. And we've both, you know, published some research around it as well. And so we're also like on the spectrum of chiropractic. I would call us chiro nerds. Yeah. You know, like I just got a paper published in PubMed last week, actually.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're kind of a big deal.
It's fun. It's my third publication, but the first that I have been lead author on.
This is what I always say about the Seacoast, and I love hearing stories like this, is that there's so many people out here like you who are doing, just here in Greenland, New Hampshire, like big, potentially world-changing things whose impact is felt far beyond the geographical scope of the Seacoast. So that's so cool. Like, we're so lucky to have people like you doing this stuff.
It's super, you're right. It's super fun because I think there is a love of life here in the Seacoast where people live well and purposefully. And when people are living well, they can express who they are at a deep level and produce some beautiful things.
And live up to their fullest potential, like the Arete name in Greek translates to.
Yes, it's a Greek philosophy, living life with excellence through fulfillment of purpose and function.
Exactly. Took the words right out of my mouth. Now,
yeah, those words.
I know upper cervical is the focus, but obviously you know about the whole spine. Low back pain, I feel like, is the most common complaint that just any person in America has these days. And it only seems to be getting worse. What are the main drivers of that particular issue? Sitting,
lack of core strength, and inflammatory diet. It's a recipe for disaster for people. I can adjust somebody till the cows come home, but if they're 50 pounds overweight and they have no core strength, the lower back's going to not be as stable as it should be.
Right.
And so, that's where the yoga comes in, or the Pilates, the bar, the walking, the just awareness of your body and awareness of, you get one meat sack to walk around for your entire life. And if you don't take care of your body, where are you going to live? And if you want to live well, then you have to treat your body well. And so that's like, how are you moving? How are you taking care of your spine? How are you eating? You know, how much water are you drinking? How are you sleeping? Like, how are you using your body on a daily basis? And understanding that every job that we can possibly think of has aspects of repetitive stress. But then what are you doing to counteract that?
Right.
Yeah.
On that note, I'm dying to hear what your wellness routine is. The food, the exercise, the daily habits.
Totally.
Take me into it all.
Oh, goodness. So
she's like, I got a long laundry list of things.
I have a long laundry list, but I'm not a paragon of health and wellness right now. I'm not.
Going to more white trash parties?
More white trash regattas. Yeah. No, a lot less partying, a lot less beer, a lot less sleep, a lot more toddler momming. So for me personally, I used to be like, I don't know if you remember P90X.
Oh yeah. Loved it.
Like Tony Horton,
My guy.
Yeah, right? Like, so I used to be like high intensity interval training, like let's hit workout, let's do it hard, let's do 6 days a week. And that's just not a reality anymore. Like I own a business. I am a mom. I have horses that I compete. Like there's just only so much time in a day. And so for me, my wellness routine is drinking lots of water, making sure I get good sleep as best I can, which sometimes happens, sometimes doesn't. Making sure I eat fairly healthy. With respect to your body, there is a real thing of calories in, calories out. That's a reality. And then there's also the quality of food that you eat. So we spend a good amount of money on good food, which, when you want to know somebody's priorities, like look at what they spend their money on. I think ultimately, like if you really want to know what people care about, look at where they spend their money. And my mom always said to me, like, my dollar is my vote. Right. So, we pay for good food. We have a local friend of ours who gives us like a half a cow. We have a freezer in our basement and it's, raised on her farm and we pay for it. But yeah, so we do that. We try to do as much like, farm stand food as possible. Doesn't always happen. I mean, let's be honest. There are nights that I've had ramen noodles, right? Like nobody's perfect, but you definitely on the average have to practice healthier food, healthier movement patterns. For movement now, I practice yoga kind of personally on my mat, maybe 3 times a week for half an hour to 45 minutes. The rest of the time is more like PT type stretching. And then like I'm always active. So riding horses is a big activity. So, I ride 4 days a week. I was just at a horse show on Sunday. And the type of horse show I do eventing. So it's dressage, stadium jumping, cross country, like walking the cross country course is like a 2-mile hike through the woods, So it's like, I'm constantly moving.
Right. And your job is very active.
Yeah.
as well.
I'm on my feet all day, working with people, which is, super physical.
Yeah.
Like sitting down for this podcast is the most will probably sit down all week.
You're going crazy right now.
Amazing.
Just sitting here this
Actually, it's quite nice.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I could provide that for you. I used to be so locked in, so dialed in. I had the long laundry list of things, but I got to tell you, this whole owning your own business thing and putting your ass on the line, everything makes a lot of those things go out the window. I used to have the same sleep wake cycle, woke up at the same time, went to bed at the same time. Now it is all over the place. It's a total crapshoot because people keep inviting me to events and all these things. So like the night goes longer than I wanted to. I went to bed at like 1 a.m. every day last week, which back in the day, it used to be 9:30 p.m. It's been tough.
Yeah, you just had the CUCC singles, right?
That's coming up this coming Friday, or this coming Saturday, at least the day we're speaking. But that'll be another late night.
Yeah,
my dinner clubs are always a late night.
Yeah,
it's a lot of things happening.
And you mentioned the business side of things.
Yeah.
Like right now, 10 years into a business, our office it's robust enough to be generative. Like there's the momentum. Right. But that momentum didn't exist until year 3 or 4.
Okay. Yeah. I was wondering about that. How long did it take before you could actually, all right, this doesn't require my 24/7 attention.
Exactly. About the time we decided to have a kid, around 2019.
Okay.
And we opened in 2016. And that's when it was like just barely enough where it was like, I could get pregnant and take a couple of months on maternity leave and things wouldn't fall apart. But like when you start a business, there's this like, at least for me, there was this outward face that it's amazing. It's, the best thing ever. It's fine. And then the inward fear of, oh shit, it's all going to fall apart if I don't do absolutely everything. And it's a difficult dichotomy to strike. It's almost like, here with this podcast, like I'm so honored to sit down and share with you, but there's also a piece of me that's like, who the hell am I to like share my story? It's no different than anybody else's. Everybody else has had their ups and downs. Everybody else has produced great things in their life. And, there's that like imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to have this Seacoast Stories where I have the number one podcast in the Seacoast at the same time, like you're like a duck underwater, just churning your legs to like hope it doesn't all fall apart. Right. And so, yeah, that dichotomy of business ownership is a big deal.
Yeah. It's so comforting to hear you say that, both for me and for the people listening, that no matter what it looks like on the outside, internally, there's always that, do I deserve to be here? Like, why am I on this stage? Why am I next to these people? Why do these people think this about me when I don't think this about myself?
100%. Last year, I was in Denver, Colorado, speaking at an optometry conference. And I'm looking out in the audience, there's 300 optometrists. And I'm like, shit, what am I going to say that is going to like help deepen these people's understanding of their practice and provide value to them? I mean, these are people that left their families, paid for a plane ticket and a hotel room and have come to a conference, and I need to provide value to them. And it's like, it's a humbling experience. It's something that I would say everybody who's a leader or a business person or who shares information struggles with. And if it appears that they don't, then they're doing a really good job of covering it up.
Well, I assure you, your story is very much worth sharing. I'm very appreciative that you have shared it. Perhaps to leave the people general everyday health tips that people can, I'm just talking like little things that don't take too long, just little daily habits that people can add into their routine so that they don't have to go to doctors of all different kinds to get stuff fixed.
Yes. Things that you can do to help your body function to the best of its ability would be, number one, good water. Drink like a third of your body weight in ounces a day. Good sleep pattern. Positive movement. And that's going to look different for every person, Positive
movement.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So positive movement for me means movement that's good for your body. And so you can look at somebody and you look at like a bodybuilder and they're going to the gym 5 days a week and they're lifting super, super heavy. A lot of those guys, by the time they're in their 50s, their joints are shot to shit. And so it's like whatever movement that you're doing, you have to make sure that it's actually beneficial for your body.
Right.
And it's not just like, hammering your body with no recovery, or it's not just all flexibility. Some of my yogis are hypermobile and they're too flexible and they need actually some strength and stability. So positive movement for the body, good nutrition, healthy foods, some general supplements. I think at a baseline, everybody should be taking a good multivitamin, a good omega-3, a good probiotic. Those would be like my top three. And then I think paying attention to your spinal health and wellness is foundational. And I think positive mental thought is foundational. You have to pay attention to the filter that you're running your life through.
I'll add in my unqualified words, good relationships and some purpose and some meaning.
Yes. Without the purpose, life falls apart. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with these days, unfortunately.
Ooh, what do you mean?
Yeah. So, and I'm going to fumble this a little bit, but there was a mouse experiment where they gave the mice perfect conditions. And so as much food and water and like play stimulation as they could possibly imagine without any hardship. And the mice population thrived for a bit and then imploded. And I think that without a little bit of difficulty, without striving to achieve something that might make you a little bit more scared, finding the purpose, doing the things that are hard, you can have anxiety and depression and apathy, which we're seeing way more of these days. And sometimes that might just be like life's a little too good. I mean, we have never lived in, this was on your podcast, with Granite Goodness, right? We've never lived in a more amazing time in human history where it's been safer, healthier, happier, at least in this country, especially in this little niche in the Seacoast. And yet we're having more anxiety and depression and like mental health issues than ever before. It's like, why is that? Well, I think sometimes we need a little bit more difficulty in our life.
Yeah.
So you got to strive for that purpose. You got to strive for things that make you uncomfortable and the big goals.
Mm-hmm. Although perhaps not the difficulty that you've had in your life. I would have liked a little less difficulty and hardship for you. I'm sure
I thank you for wishing that. I don't wish it for myself. No. I think everything happens for a reason. And that reason, sometimes it can be really shitty and difficult when you're going through it, but it's there for a purpose and it shapes who you are now. And I have gotten to a point where, I really love who I am and what I offer the world. And it wouldn't be that way without having the experiences that I've had.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a perfect note to end on. Dr. Mychal Beebee, thank you so much for joining me, for sharing your story. There clearly has to be a part 2 because there's so much more to get into with you, but I'll leave you to go fix some upper cervical issues. Thank you so much for sharing your story, for all that you do for the Seacoast and beyond. And I know you're only just getting started here, so thank you.
Oh, it's a true pleasure. It's incredible how fast the time flies talking with you, Troy. Thank you.
Again, that's Dr. Mychal Beebee of Arete Chiropractic in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. They are currently accepting patients for a few months from now. If you would like to learn more, just visit aretechiro.com, the link to which is in today's show notes. Thank you to Dr. Beebee for so bravely sharing her story, to JOBTALK LLC for supporting today's episode, and to all of you for listening. I'll see some of you Friday for our sold-out dinner club in Newmarket, and I cannot wait to celebrate the 1-year anniversary with all of you. Make sure you're following Seacoast Stories on Substack for our newsletter, and also to our YouTube channel for additional weekly videos. And lastly, if you see me around town this week, please stop me and say hi. I would love to hear your story.